how many uses can you think of for a paperclip? One of those routine questions. Most people might come up with 10 or 15. People who are good at this might come up with 200. Now, there are tests for this, and I gave them to 1,500 people. This is in a book called Breakpoint and Beyond. And on the protocol of the test, if you scored above a certain level, you'd be considered to be a genius at divergent thinking. Okay? So my question to you is, what percentage of the people tested, of the 1,500, scored at genius level for divergent thinking? Now, you need to know one more thing about them. These were kindergarten children. Okay? So what do you think? What percentage at genius level? 98%. So they retested the same children 5 years later, ages of 8 to 10. What do you think? 15? They retested them again 5 years later, ages 13 to 15. You can see a trend here, can't you?
It's interesting. There's two pieces to that. One of them, if I was to talk about it from the adult aspect first, as they get older, they stop seeing the possibilities for what that paperclip might be because they're thinking more and more about the purpose of it. This is what I've used it for. This is the job that I need to go and tackle. And they stop being able to think innovatively and creatively. So they stop thinking about all those possibilities, but what's sad about that is inside their heads, they've got a whole bunch of things that they've seen and know of and just aren't drawing the lines between them. In other words, they know a lot of opportunities, a lot of things, but they never draw the line from that paperclip to this particular thing. So when you take a look at this program, from the student standpoint, it is all about showing those kids that stuff. It is all about showing them what's possible.
So, can you tell me about design thinking in your education experience? Just broad.
Mount Vernon is a school in northeastern Atlanta that prides itself on being a school of inquiry, innovation, and impact. By attending Mount Vernon, we are given the tools to be globally competitive and engaged citizen leaders. Wait, can I start over? Mount Vernon is a school that allows us to explore. We get to ask questions, go on tangents, dive deep into what makes things work, and then pull all that knowledge together and actually solve something. At the school, we do something called design thinking. It is a collection of tools that allow us to empathize with someone else, really get into their shoes and see their perspective. Then we use the insight from that experience to try out a bunch of different solutions and prototypes. We actually get to design and do work that adults do, but we're only in grade school. A lot of people knock DT. They say it's just a buzzword for a fad that has no future. They haven't really experienced design thinking, to empathize with someone else, to see what they see, feel what they feel, even for a short time. It's empowering. Third graders at this school are designing for the homeless population. Middle schoolers are digging into the Bill of Rights. And right now, my group is designing an outdoor play space for a brand new development anchored on Whole Foods. Design thinking has allowed me to meet some really incredible and influential people. I've done projects with the CDC and Whole Foods and facilitated workshops and conferences. If I were in a school where traditional education was it, there's no way I could have been a part of something like this.
What has empathy added to my education? Well, traditional learning is very impersonal. Our challenges involve counting Sally's apples and solving angles for fixing lampposts. Standardized test questions are no different. Our critical essays are written without any room for the lived experiences of others, only what we were taught to look for in textbooks and primary source documents. Empathy has helped me become more involved. I feel comfortable reflecting on my work and experiences. I practice my empathy muscle by coaching and facilitating others through empathy building experiences so I can refine my own definition and how I interact in my community. I feel empowered to connect with the people and not just the problems. And through that connection, us designers can take our work to the next level and dig deeper so our work can make real impact with the people we are solving for. How's that?
Right after that, you're going to have third grade come in. Third grade is building lamps. They're building lamps that they're going to put on their bikes for a bike rally. Some kids are a little further along than others. So when a question comes up that you don't feel ready to answer, you're not supposed to. Guys, Elizabeth is having problems. Elizabeth can't get it to light up. Who can help her? That's not unfamiliar. That's part of the culture. They usually hear those kids talk about ask three before me. That's the name of the game. They're not to come to me, they're to learn from each other. That's their responsibility as being in this class, is to teach each other and learn from each other, not just me. So they won't bat an eye when all of a sudden hey, Elizabeth needs help, and they're, ooh, I'll help her. They'll go take care of that.
So I'm going to take a picture of all these ideas and put them on a document so that we can have one document. I will only be sharing it with this class.
What are you looking at?
That's awesome.
Trying to find cool stuff.
No, that's awesome.
The right to try. That's rude. Anytime you see CRAT, that generally means government. Also, Archon means government too. So this means that we have a government by the people. And that means that people elect the officials, and also people decide whether you're guilty or not. So the number 7, the Bill of Rights, that's a really important part. Okay, number 9, Jordan. I
have the right to.
Oh, we skipped it. Did you do it?
Yeah.
Sorry. I.
To protection of rights.
Okay. Yes, you have a right to protection of rights. That's actually number 9.
Kids nowadays, they feel like creativity is wiped out in schools. You go to class, you do your homework, you go home, and then you go back to class. It's a repetitive kind of style and schedule. So you need that kind of disruption in your life, something that can say, hey, let's do this, and it's okay. You definitely need that kind of area in which you can feel like you can fail, like you have a safety net. It's not as if, let's say you're on a trampoline and there's no bottom, as in once you fall off the trampoline, then you're done. It's not like that. You have to have something that can allow you to keep going in life and to let you just keep making your own path.
My favorite thing at the end of the day is having them be passionate learners. If a child knows how to learn, they can learn anything. And they're not going to learn if they don't have the confidence, and that's where the growth mindset comes in, where the kid knows that he or she can learn, and they know that I believe they can. And that's pretty powerful. I mean, I wouldn't do any other job in the world.
Or maybe some of the weakness comes from thinking there's only one way, and there are a lot of different ways. One of the things that I think design thinking brings that some of the other methods don't is the empathy piece. And I also think that it gives students a challenge that is worth solving, you know? A lot of times we address things, and particularly in math, we say, well, you need to know how to add fractions so that you'll be able to do it in 7th grade. Well, that's not the reason you really need to learn how to add fractions. And everything is so much bigger than sometimes what we reduce it to.
I'm drawing a flag, and then it says freedom of speech and thoughts. Yeah, so awesome.
For me, it's the idea of teaching teachers is not something that's an addition to, it can be an instead of, type of thing, where we're teaching a process that helps students become thinkers, and we all want our students to think. So design thinking gives you the opportunity to actually think through a scenario, a situation, but it's tangible, it's real world, it's something that they can actually make an impact on.
I have the right to protest.
I have the right to petition.
I have the right to keep and bear arms.
I have the right not to allow soldiers in my house.
I have the right to not be searched without reason or permission.
I have the right to not let people take what you want.
I have the right for a fair trial.
I have the right not to incriminate myself.
I have the right. I have the right to not be tried with the same crime twice.
I have the right to a quick and public trial.
I have the right to a fair jury of people. I have the right to no excessive bail. I have the right for no cruel or unusual punishment.
Just because it's not listed does not mean that I do not have that right.
The states have power too.
These are our rights.
So I don't think you can teach it. I think you can facilitate experiences, right? And that's where it comes from. So the best empathy is getting out in the world and really experiencing it. So the more often that we can introduce our students to new people, the more often we can get students off campus into different situations. To me, those are all empathy building exercises. Anything that sort of like pushes your perspective or sort of pushes you to look at a challenge from a different way, I think those are all empathy building exercises also.
In middle school in particular, you've got students who are at a stage of their life, just developmentally, where they're very focused on themselves. I think humans in general, we tend to focus on ourselves a lot. And empathy is such a critical skill because it forces us and teaches us to look to other people and how they perceive the world, their perspective, or their point of view.
You can do it quietly. Oh, I know, I have an idea. What if one or two of you ask him, you say, what is your favorite Bill of Rights? And may we write that on your window? Two of you.
Me and Melissa.
Okay.
Hi. What's your favorite Bill of Rights?
Fast and don't get in trouble. Oh. Awesome.
Give me extra tape and I'll give it.
You guys save some for the second floor.
Alright, I'll save it all on the second floor.
Do you want to go in with the books?
No. Inside the stalls. The stalls, guys.
Look at the stalls.
In the stalls.
We always want our students to collaborate, in some form. So it allows for the opportunity to come together and also receive feedback. We're constantly giving feedback, in most cases in the form of some type of formal assessment or a test, but now you have an opportunity to give feedback to students that's meaningful about things that can impact them lifelong. So it's not a matter of you learn this particular set of information and you store it away. With design thinking, it allows students to learn, get the feedback, and they take skills with them that they can apply to day-to-day life. So I think for teachers, it's this idea of making your teaching meaningful. Students ask all the time, when will I ever use this in life? But with design thinking, it gives you a process that you say, okay, you will use this in life, and this is how.
With design thinking, we're providing this larger context with a challenge that kind of is, it's intriguing, and we invite students in to solve a problem that allows them to see that they have an impact and that they have a voice and that they can make a difference. And I think that's what we all want, right? Out of our lives, we want to be able to make a difference. And so I think design thinking offers that. And then I also think that because of the way when you go through the design thinking process, the empathy stage and allowing students to really connect with something outside of themselves can be so powerful, and it has lessons all on its own that I think we sometimes miss in the classroom, especially in math.
All students are different, everyone learns different. What I find really cool actually is the idea of taking those different people and having them work together. I always get really fascinated with the idea of what would happen if you were to take a classroom, take your typical classroom, and you have that one kid that never speaks up, that one kid that maybe speaks up too much and has to get talked to about speaking out of turn. Then you have that one kid that maybe sits in the back on his computer and is playing video games during class, not paying attention. Then you have that kid up front that's always raising their hand and always talking and contributing. what if you were to take those 4 people and get them to work together on a project? Because everyone does have their own unique skills. That person who might be shy in the corner is probably taking really good notes. That person playing video games, I bet you they know computers better than so many different kids in the school, and having them on board a team would be so great to be able to have that technology background with helping with design. I think that's something that would be really cool as far as with the way education is changing, to really put more emphasis on what makes you you, what's your personal story, how are you growing as a learner and a leader and an individual in this world. And if you can really pinpoint those individual stories and strengths, that's what's going to make for really rich learning and allow you to create a really rich conversation amongst different types of learners.
Hey, I teach at a middle school, and we have been working today. We're learning the Bill of Rights, which we know you know.
Yes.
And we have been practicing our Bill of Rights by putting up posters and practicing our freedom of speech about the Bill of Rights.
Okay.
And we wanted to know if you would say hi to the kids for a minute and maybe arrest them for their guerrilla work.
The students automatically started brainstorming. What if every time someone slams a bathroom door, it gives you a Bill of Rights on the back of the bathroom door?
In the stalls.
Or what if we use chalk all over the sidewalk? What if we use window markers? You know, what if we have a flash mob in the cafeteria? It naturally happened. And what happened is my favorite thing about teaching, is that if I can inspire passionate learners, if I can have a child excited, and I know it's going well because that's when I'm excited too. When I can't wait to get in my classroom, I could not wait for this project. I had students emailing me. I had a couple students even call me to ask what they could bring and how they could be involved in it. But that is the kind of joy and excitement that I want in my classroom.
That's why I teach these classes. You know, if we weren't in here experimenting, practicing, refining, you know, going through that aspect of learning, it gets very hard to talk about transformation of stuff. You become, you know, a talking head. But when you're here, you know, walking in the trenches, out there in the boats, fishing with them, yeah, you're doing something. And plus, that's where all the excitement is. I can't tell you the number of times where I have thought I had the answer to something, the best way to go and do it, and the kids have come up with something far better. Like this marble run is a great example of one. At one point in time, the kids, prop time, were building a marble run, and when they were building it, they created a ramp that looks something like this. This is way oversimplified, but they made a ramp, as such, complete with tape, and the ball was supposed to run down it. And they built it like this. So there it is, very, very simple. So they built this thing, and the marble would run down here and it would get caught right there. It would always run down and it would balance right there and it would stop. And so you have the whole conversation about, okay, well, why isn't this working? Oh, it seems to be getting caught, da, da, da. We discover what the issue is. I said, how are you going about fixing it? So we'll change it around. And it was getting late towards class, so I said, would you like my help with it? He goes, sure, you can absolutely help me with this. So I, helping, said, all right, no problem. Began to take the tape off and got ready to do this. I got to this stage and the kid says, what are you doing, Mr. Tiffin? I go, I'm fixing it. Why are you fixing it that way? Well, how would you fix it? He says, let me show you. He didn't have that little inflection in his voice, but he put it back together and did that. I was all set to completely tear it apart and do something, and he's like, no, this is the solution. And it's things like that that amaze me all the time. And it's what gets me excited about being out there on the boat with them, because you really are going to find something different. You're gonna see some new little, you know, glimpse or connection, you know, that you weren't expecting, but all of a sudden, you know, has been put in play. And that's valuable. It's incredibly insightful and valuable, and it shows, you know, there's worth to what we're doing.
I think that the rise of the startup, technology, product innovation, these things right now in our culture are booming. But what I think that faces the next generation of leaders is more than just creating new tech products or trying to grow Silicon Valley to become this mecca that it is. I believe what is facing our students is systemic problems that are so massive that technology, yes, is going to be a part of solving those things, but more than anything, it's the relationships that students and next generation leaders are going to have with leaders of the world in order to actually make change. And the only way that students are going to learn that is if they begin now thinking, how do I put a person at the center of my impact? How do I actually solve for another? Because the world is too globalized, it is too complex, it's too ambiguous. The things and the problems that students are facing, it requires a systematic thinking, and also, not, I think most importantly, it demands that we focus on people more importantly than technology. And I think that's what design thinking is actually leveraging in our students, is preparing them to deal with huge global systemic problems.
I really hold on to a Steve Jobs quote, which is, you cannot connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect them looking backwards. But the second sentence I think is the most important, is that you trust that the dots will connect.
So I think a conversation in education right now is this idea of design thinking a buzzword? And maybe the word itself is, but human-centered design, I think, is going to be one of the most important things that we actually teach our students.
But instead they're going to say, we have a problem and we need you to fix it. And so I think when we present it like that and help our teachers understand that we really are preparing our students, not only for the rest of their school career, but for their career beyond that, I think it makes a bigger impact. And then I think for teachers, a lot of them, they don't know how to pull in the learning outcomes, so they get nervous. They feel like, that sounds great, and yes, we would love to do that, but I still have these learning outcomes and my students have to be prepared for the next year. And the truth is, so much can be addressed within one challenge. It may not be in the linear fashion that they're used to, and it may not come in the same form, but the students are experiencing real problems, real situations, and really being able to apply their innovation and their creativity to solve these problems.
I think that design thinking is something that's going to be huge, and I think is already growing really fast. And in schools like this with technology in these days, there's so many opportunities when you can use design thinking to solve problems. I think this is going to be everywhere.
It's out there in terms of the evolution of where we are going. The agricultural age, industrial age, information age, and somebody has pointed that the next thing is the human age, where the person is really what's important. And it seems to me that in this space, it is not the person that is important. Okay? It's the learning that is important, it's the technology that is important, but it's not the person that is important. In our open environments, in our offices, is really depressing when they create this farm where you don't have a desk. It's just a bunch of desks and anybody can come and sit. Everybody's with their headphones because of the noise. Okay? And they avoid being in the office. Okay? So, because there is no humanity to it. It's dehumanizing. You don't count for anything. You're just a space. There's your desk. And I think that we need to refocus ourselves. Why is experiential so powerful these days? Is because it's about the human experience. Nothing else can have an experience. The computer doesn't have an experience. The world doesn't have an experience. The human has experience. And so I think that how is this experiential for the individual? Not for the community, not for the technology, not for the learning, but for the individual.
They had the experience of researching, but now it's real. It's not just paper. It's not just a primary source that's dead, but now you have people that actually have ancestors who went through that. So it put a picture, or put a face to that literature, or the history that they were reading. And hopefully that conversation keeps going. It's not just something, a moment in time and now it's dead. It keeps reoccurring, or other opportunities keep coming up to bring up that story that we captured.
And I saw the willingness of students to make themselves vulnerable in front of each other, and then the care that they took with each other. I mean, they're not going to remember everything I teach them in American history. I mean, I know that. That's why I don't have them memorize specific dates. But the ideas with them, I think they remember those.
You really just have to get started. You have to get started, because if you don't get started now, you're just going to keep coming up with excuses for it. And it's far easier to learn as you go than it is to learn and then go, I'd say, especially with this. Like, there's certain things, yeah, you can learn the material and then take a test on it, but this is a really in-depth, like, hands-in process. And if you can't get your hands in at the beginning, how are you gonna do it later?
How might we, oh gosh, this almost seems to have to be like broad and important.
How might we
get student voice to be a forefront at the education redesign?
How might we transform school to be more lifelike?
Prepare our students to be better than they ever dreamed they could be.
Foster a school where students can file their own patents, start their own businesses, and blend the lines between school life and work life.
How might we inspire students in school to become change makers?
Encourage a playful exploration of what is possible.
So how might we embrace empathy as a tool so that we can introduce design thinking to our community?
Lay your bald head down. Lay your bald head down next to mine, next to mine. On that cool bright morning, on that cool bright morning.